Alright, Karina baby, let's go back to Carpillon. It is 5:17 and Mama's making pierogi strombolis because I made the pierogi innards the other day, and I made the dough for the pierogies, but I didn't put eggs in the dough, so it's not sticking together the right way. So I'm like, well, fried pierogi stromboli will be amazing tonight for dinner. So, sorry I didn't get back sooner. Mama wanted to do some dishes and put away some eggs from the hen houses and just fill up water jugs and things like that for Amber for tomorrow. So this way she'll be starting from a good starting ground. Alright, so back to the Princess Carpillon. The king and queen, who loved her very much, were not at all displeased at the growing affections. They looked upon the prince as though he were their son, and the many perfections of the princess were secretly less charming to them than to him. "If it not the Amazon who sent her to us," said they, "and did she not also come and fight the centaur in favor of the boy? No doubt this was fairy has destined them for each other. We must wait her orders thereupon and follow them." Matters were in this condition, the prince still compelling of Carpillon's indifference to him, for she carefully concealed her sentiments for him. When, as he was hunting one day, he was unexpectedly attacked by a furious bear, who rushed suddenly from the cavity of a rock, threw himself upon him, and would have devoured him had he not been as dexterous as he was brave. After struggling for a long time upon the summit of the mountain, they rolled to the bottom without quitting their hold. Carpillon was standing near the spot where several of her companions. They could not see what was passing above them, but what was the terror of these young girls when they perceived a man and a bear falling headlong down together? The princess immediately recognized her shepherd. She uttered shrieks of terror and anguish. All the shepherdess took flight. She remained solo, spectress of the combat. She even boldly thrust the iron of her cook in the terrible animal's mouth, and love gave her strength to render some assistance to her lover. When he saw her, the fear she might be involved in his danger augmented his courage to such a degree that he thought not of his own life, provided that he could save that of his shepherdess. At last he killed the bear close to her feet, but he felt himself half dead with his wounds, which he had received. They loved each other so much they were willing to do anything in the world to help save each other, right? That's what love is. Love is sacrifice. You sacrifice a lot when you're with a partner. You sacrifice a lot. A lot. What was her mercy when she saw her clothes stained with his flowing blood? She could not speak. The tears gushed from her eyes, and placed his head upon her knees. Then, with a sudden effect, "Shepherd," said she to he, "if you die, I shall die with you. In vain have I concealed from you the secrets of my heart. Know them now, and be assured that my life is devoted to you." "What can I wish for more, lovely shepherdess?" said he. Whatever may now befall me, my fate must still be a happy one. The shepherdess who had fled now returned with several shepherds to whom they had relied when they had just seen. They hastened to assist the prince and the princess, for she needed assistance nearly as much as he did. Whilst they were cutting the branches from trees to make a kind of litter, the fairy Amazon appeared in the midst of them. "Do not be uneasy," she said to them. "Let me touch the youth shepherd." She took him by the hand and placed her gold helmet on his head. "I forbid thee to be ill, dear shepherd," said she to him. He arose instantly, and the visor of the helmet being open, displayed to them his fine fortunes full of heroic expression, and his keen and brilliant eyes, confirming the hopes the fairy had inspired with them, with the astonishment of the manner in which she had just cured him, and at her majestic appearance. Transported with admiration, with joy, and with gratitude, he threw himself at her feet. "Great Queen," said he to her, "I was dangerously wounded. A look from you, a word from your mouth, has cured me. But alas, I have a wound in my heart, of which I would not be cured. Design but assured its pain, and improved my fortune, that I may be able to share it with this lovely shepherdess." The princess blushed at hearing him speak thus, for she was aware the fairy Amazon knew her, and she was afraid she should be blamed by her for holding out hopes to a lover she much been earth herself. She dared not look at her. The sigh that escaped her moved the fairy's compassion. "Carpillon," she said, "this shepherd is not unworthy of your esteem, and you, shepherd, so dangerous to change your so desirous to change your state. Rest assured that in a short time a very great change will take place in it." Having uttered these words, she disappeared as usual. The shepherd and shepherdess who has hastened to assist them conducted them in triumph to their village. They placed the lovers in the midst of them, and having crowned them with flowers in honor of the victory they had just achieved over the terrible bear which they dragged after them, they sang these words upon their affection Carpillon had shown for the prince: "Greater pleasure yet will reign in thus enchanting groves. Here a shepherd charms disdain the daughters of the lover." In this manner they brought them home to Sublime, to whom they related all that had just happened, with what courage the shepherd had defended himself against the bear, and how nobly the shepherdess had aided him in the combat, and lastly, what the fairy Amazon had done for him. The king, delighted at this recital, ran to tell the queen. "Undoubtedly," said he, "this boy and girl have no common blood in them. Their eminent professions, their beauty, and the care that the fairy Amazon took to them proves there is something extraordinary relating to them. All at once the queen remembered the diamond ring Carpillon had gave her. "I always forget," said she. "I saw your ring. To show you a ring that this young shepherdess has put into my hands with an air of uncommon dignity, begged me to accept it, and to give her in exchange for it some dresses like those they wear in this country." "It is stone, a fine one?" inquired the king. "I have secretly looked at it," answered the queen, "but here it is." She presents him with the ring, and as soon as he looks at it, "Ye gods, what do I see?" cried he. "What, do you not remember a gift I received from my own hands?" At the same time he pressed a little spring of which he knew the secret. The diamond flew up, and the king saw her portrait that she had painted for the king, and that she had tied round the neck of her little daughter to play with, when she was nursing her in the tower. "Ah, sire," said she, "what strange adventure is this? It renews all my griefs. However, let us speak to the shepherdess. We must try to know more about it." She called her and said, "My child, I have waited till this time for an admission from you, which would have given us much greater pleasure if you had made it without being urged to do so. But since you continue to hide from us who you are, it is right to tell you that we know that the ring you gave us has solved the enigma." "Alas, my mother," replied the princess, throwing herself upon her knees before her, "it was not from a want to confidence that I presented in hiding my rank from you. I thought it would distress you to see a princess in the condition that I am. My father was king of the peaceful islands. His reign was tumbled by an usurper that confined him in a tower with the queen, my mother. After 3 years of captivity, they procured means of escape. One of the guards assisted them. They lowered me, favored by the darkness of night, in a basket. The cord broke. I fell into the lake. Without their knowledge whether I was drowned or not, some fishermen who had thrown out their nets to catch craype found me entangled in them. My size and weight induced them to think it was one of the largest crops that was in the lake. Thus hopes vanished when they saw me. They thought they would throw me into the water again to feed the fishes. But finally they left me in the nets and carried me to the tyrant, who I instinctively knew by the flights of my family that I was an unfortunate little princess, quite forsaken. His wife, who had never had any children, had pity on me. She took me herself and brought me up the name of Carpillon. She perhaps wished me to forget my birth, but my heart always told me who I was, and sometimes it is a misfortune to possess feelings that confirm so little to one's situation. However that might be, a prince named Basu came to conquer the usurper who deprived my father of the kingdom, who he was enjoying so peacefully. This removal of the tyrants made it worse for me. Prince Basu carried me off as one of the brightest ornaments of his triumph. See what just happened there, baby? She is their daughter. And she's back at home with her parents. She just doesn't know it. It took a lot of years and a lot of time. But she's back home with her mama and her papa. The brightest ornaments of his triumphs, and resolved to marry me against my inclination. It in so great and extremely I determined to fly by myself, dressed as a shepherdess, and leading my cow. Prince Basu, who sought for me everywhere, and who overtook me, would no doubt have known me if the fairy Amazon had not generously given me a bouquet of gilliflowers on purpose to protect me from my enemies. She was equally kind in sending me to you, my good mother, continued the princess, and if I do not declare my rank sooner to you, it was not from want of confidence, but only wish the view of sparing you trouble. Not that I complain, continued she. I never knew happiness till that day you received me, and I assure you, I find a royal life so sweet and innocent. I find a rural country life, rural life, so sweet and innocent that I do not hesitate to prefer it to that to which they lead at court. She spoke so earnestly, she did not perceive that the queen was dissolved in tears, and that the king's eyes were also full of them. But as soon as she had finished, they hastened to embrace her and hold her in their arms. Some time without speaking a word, she was as much affected as they were. She wept as they did, and it would be different to describe the mingled pain and pleasure that agitated these three illusions and unfortunate persons. At last the queen, making an effort to speak, said to her, "It is possible, dear child of my soul, that after having so long and so deeply regretted thy sad loss, the gods have restored thee to thy mother, to console her in her misfortunes. Yes, my daughter, thou sentst her who bore thee, and nursed thee in thy earliest infancy. Behold the author of thy being. O light of our eyes, O princess whom the wreath of heavens deprived us of, with what transports shall we celebrate thy blessed return? And I, my illustrated mother, and I, my dear queen," cried the princess, throwing herself at her feet. "By what words, by what accountants can I express to you both all that the respect and love I owe you causes me to feel at this moment? Thou dear refuge from all my troubles, I find thee just as I had ceased to flatter myself with hope. Thy renews my embrace, and thus thy past some hours." Carpillon then withdrew. Her father and her mother desires her not to maintain what had just transpired, for they were appreciative of the courtesy of the shepherdess of that country, and as they were for the most part rather unpolished, it was to be feared they would try to discover secrets which did not concern them. The princess, it was feared that they would try to discover secrets which did not concern them. Baby, everyone deserves respect and everyone deserves privacy, right? It doesn't matter who you are. You should be allowed to be your own person within your own person. You are this body, no one can take this body away from you. This is who and what you are. You are like, people have a lot of stuff. Look around my mama's room. Mama has a lot of stuff for you. I have teddy bears for you. I have clothes for you. I have toys for you. I have books for you. I read you books all the time. Mama loves you. Mama loves you. I love you so very much. And baby, you own your own body. No one can tell you what to do with it, anything, what color your hair should be, what you want in your hair. Like, when we went down to the Doylestown fair that one day, and you asked me, Mama, can I get that in my hair? And I said, of course, go ask the lady. And you went up and asked the lady, can I get that in my hair? And she looked at me and she asked me, can she get this in her hair? And I looked at you, I go, Karina, baby, do you still want that in your hair? And you said, yeah. I said, yeah, it's her hair, it's her body, of course she can. That wasn't my decision to make for you. Just like you'd go up, right, and we'd go to like one of the car shows and you'd pick out what you want for your face paint and you'd get the big butterflies and stuff. Mama can't pick that stuff out for you, baby. Whether you want, whatever it is that you want for your own body, that's your body. Like, Mama has to go through her stuff. I want to go through all my stuff and give a lot of stuff away because I gathered too much stuff. If Mama likes to be a little minimalistic about it, because I have a lot of stuff, but like the only thing I actually own is right here. I don't need all of it. I don't need a bunch of extra stuff. Alright, baby. I love you. Let's continue with this book. This is a really good book. I like this book a lot. They renewed their embrace, and thus they passed some hours. Carpillon then withdrew. Her father and her mother desired not to maintain what had just transpired, for they were appreciative of the courtesy of the shepherdess of that country. And as they were, for the most part, rather unpolished, it was to be feared they would try to discover secrets which did not concern them. Everybody has their own personal life that they live every single day. You're with yourself 24 hours a day, every single day. You're the only person who really knows every last thing that you're doing. I know the government tries to, like, look into our lives and see what we're doing, but they don't, like, understand why we're doing, like, even if they get, like, information, they're not understanding, like, the inner thoughts of, like, what we want or what we need. So they just don't want to be rude. They don't want to have her divulge things that she wasn't ready to talk about yet. The princess was silent on the subject of her companions in general, but she could not keep the secret from her young shepherd. See, she had someone that she wanted to talk to. That's the thing. Secrets do hurt a lot of the times. A lot of times, like, Mama's learning, it's not good to keep secrets. I've always told you that, like, never keep secrets. They hurt, like, the inside of you. They create wounds that you can't see but you can feel. You know, and those wounds sometimes don't go away. So you manage, right? But keeping secrets, you don't have to keep as many. You really don't have to keep any if you don't want to. You know, it's okay to have your own personal information that you just know about yourself, but you don't have to keep secrets. Sometimes secrets just hurt. But if there are things that, you know, that's okay too. Karina, baby, Mama loves you. I love you so much. How can we refrain from trusting those we love? She had reproached herself 1,000 times for concealing from him her birth. What obligations, said she, would he not have felt under to me had he known that being born to a throne I had humbled myself to him? Yet, alas, love makes little difference between the scepter and the crook. So between a scepter where they're king and queen and the crook where they're going out with their animals, love of the heart sees there's nothing that you can be or do. Like, when you love somebody, you just love them, and that love should be unconditional love. It's not based upon conditions. When you love someone, you love them. It doesn't matter what they do or what they say. Like, you just love them, right? Can the imaginary greatness so much boasted of actually possess the soul and satisfy it? no venture alone has the right to do so. So places us above the throne and can detach us from it. The shepherd who loves me is wise, witty, and amiable. In what can a prince be superior to him? As she indulged in these reflections, she saw him at her feet. He had followed her to the riverside, and presenting her with a garland of flowers of a charming variety, he said, "Whence come you, lovely shepherdess? For hours have I been seeking you, and impatiently awaiting your arrival." "Shepherd," said she, "I have been occupied by a wonderful adventure. I should reproach myself did I conceal it from you. But remember that this mark of my confidence binding you to everlasting secrecy. I am a princess, my father was a king, whom I have just discovered is the person of Sublime." The prince, who was astonished and agitated at this revelation that he had not the power to interpret her, well, she related to him in the kindest manner her whole history. What reason had he not to fear that the good shepherd who had educated him would, being a king, refuse him his daughter, or that she herself, reflecting upon the difference between the great princess and himself, would one day withdraw from him the kindness she had at first shown him? "Ah, madam," said he mournfully, "I am a lost man. I must die. You are born to a throne, you have found your parents, and I am unfortunate, being who knows nothing his country nor his kindred. An eagle was my foster mother, and her nest my cradle. If you had designed to look upon me favorably, you will be advised to think of me no longer." The princess mused for a moment, and without answering him, she took a bodkin which kept her up her beautiful hair, and wrote upon the bark of the tree, "Canst thou love for love return?" The prince instantly wrote these words: "Cease then, shepherd, to complain, love and be loved again." The prince, transported with joy, threw himself at her feet, and seizing one of her hands, said, "You ease my affectionate heart, amiable princess, and by these new acts of kindness you preserve my life. Remember what you have just written in my favor. I am not likely to forget it," said she, with a gracious smile. We lie upon my heart. It is more interested in your behalf than in my own." Their conversations would have lasted much longer if they had had more time, but as they had to collect the flocks they were tending, they hastened to return. Meanwhile, the king and queen were conferring together on the course they should pursue respecting Carpillon and the young shepherd. As long as she was a stranger to them, they approved of the gentle flame that was generally kindling in their bosoms. The perfect beauty which was heaven had endowed them. Their intellect and grace, which distinguished all their actions, made them desire that their union should be lasting. But they looked upon it with a very different eye when they considered she was their daughter, and that the shepherd was without doubt only an unfortunate child, whose parents had escaped from the wild beasts to save themselves the trouble of bringing him up. Finally, they resolved to tell Carpillon she must no longer encourage the hopes of the youth had flattered herself with, and that she must even declare to him that it was not her wish to establish herself in that country. So she loves her shepherd. They don't know he's a prince, but now that this is her daughter that they're considering and not just a stranger, they're like, oh, no, 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 not my princess. My princess, even though this young man is intelligent and witty, hardworking, dedicated to their family for many years, their daughter's blood. And they're trying to now protect her into a good marriage that they think would be secure. The queen called her early in the morning and spoke with much kindness to her. But what words are capable of calming a grief so violent? The princess vainly endeavored to consider her feelings. Her face now was a face of burning bushes, nor paler than she had been on the point of death, her eyes lustless from sorrow. Too plainly indicated that the state of her heart. Ah, how much she regretted her confession. She assured her mother, however, with great submission, that she would follow her injunction. She had secretly strength to throw herself on her bed, where, bathed in tears, she uttered 1,000 complaints, that 1,000 regrets. At last she arose to lead her sheep to the field to feed, but instead of going near the river, she plunged into the woods, where, lying down upon some moss, she leaned her head upon her hands and fell into a deep reverie. The prince, who could not rest without her, ran to seek her, and suddenly stood before her. At sight of him, she uttered a loud shriek, as if taken by surprise, and rising hastily rushed from him without looking at him. He remained for a moment motionless at so unusual a proceeding. Then, following and stopping her, said, "How, shepherdess, after giving me my death blow, would you deprive yourself the pleasure of seeing me die? You have already changed towards your shepherd. Do you no longer remember what you had promised him yesterday?" "Alas," she said, looking mournfully at him, "alas, what crime do you accuse me of? I am wretched. Commands have been laid upon me which I will be impossible to evade. Pity me, and do not approach me wherever I may be." "It must be so. It must be so," cried he, folding his arms in despair. "Must I fly from you, divine princess? Can so cruel and so unjust an order be pronounced by you to me? Would you drive me mad? And this flattering hopes, to which you allowed me to abandon myself, can be extinguished while I live?" Carpillon, as heart-stricken as her lover, sank to the ground, speechless and motionless. At this sight he was anguished by 1,000 different thoughts. The state in which he saw his mistress sufficiently proved the compulsion under which she acted, and this certainly is a great measure distinguished her grief. He lost not a moment in endeavoring to revive her. A spring that flowed gently amidst the grass provided him with water to sprinkle on the face of his shepherdess. And some cupids who were hidden behind a bush had assured to their companions that he dared to steal a kiss. However that might be, she soon opened her eyes and replenished her amiable shepherd. Fly, avoid me, she said. If my mother should come, would she not have cause to be angry? Should I then have left you by the Dowry, by bears and wolves, said he, or during the long swoon along in those solitary places, to be stung by some asp or serpent? I must risk everything, she said, rather than displease the queen. During this affecting and tender interview, the fairy, their protectress, suddenly appeared in the king's chamber. She was armed as usual with the gems which her cuirass, cuirass, and helmet were less brilliant than her eyes. Addressing himself to the queen, she said, "You are not too grateful, madam, for the present I made you in restoring you your daughter, who would have been drowned in the nets without my assistance. Since you are about to cause the death of the shepherd I confided to your care, think no longer of the difference that may perhaps exist between him and Carpillon. It is time they should be united. Prepare illusias sublime," said she to the king, "for their marriage. I desire it, and you will never have cause to repent it." With these words, and not waiting for their reply, she left them, leaving only a long stream of light behind her as she disappeared, resembling a ray of the sun. The king and queen were equally astonished and delighted that the fairy commands were so positive. "One cannot doubt," said the king, "that this unknown shepherd is of equal birth with Carpillon. His protectress is too noble to wish to reunite two people unsuitable to each other. It is she, as you perceive, who saved our daughter from perishing in the lake. How have we desired her favor? I have always heard say," replied the queen, "there are good and bad fairies, and they take a liking or an aversion to a family according to their humor, and inevitably the fairy Amazon favors us." All right, Karina baby, it is 6 o'clock. So let's do a song, and we are on page 176 of The Princess Carpillon. I will read you more tomorrow about what happens. But look at this. We are almost done with this story, baby. This is such a good story. I'm so glad I got this book for you from the library. Look, that's how much more. So we're going to go from 176 to 184. We're almost done. This is such a good story. I love The Princess Carpillon. I've never heard this before. It's Old English, so everything's thy and they and all that stuff, but I like it. How about let's do my favorite to sing you. It shows how hard life is. Let's do Swing Low, Sweet Chariot. Ready? Swing low, sweet chariot, coming forth to carry you home. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming forth and carry me home. Well, I looked Looked over Jordan, and what did I see? Coming forth to carry me home. A band of angels coming after me, coming forth and carry me home. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming forth to carry me home. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming forth to carry me home. Well, sometimes I'm up and sometimes I'm down, coming forth to carry me home. But still I feel my soul is heavenly bound, coming forth and carry me home. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming forth to carry me home. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming forth and carry me home. Now if you get there before I do, coming forth to carry me home. Tell all my friends I'll be coming there too, coming forth and carry me home. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming forth to carry me home. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming forth and carry me home. I'll be coming home, coming home, coming home to you, coming forth to carry me home. You know my word is good, you know my word is true, coming forth and carry me home. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming forth to carry me home. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming forth and carry me home. I love you, love you, love you, baby girl. Always love you. You are my girl, you are my entire world. Mama will always love you. Baby, I love you so incredibly much. My favorite sign is home. It's where you eat and where you sleep, right? Home. A house? That's the sign for a house. It's just the roof and the walls. That's a house. Right? But home is where your heart is. It's where you are. Alright? Baby, Mama just loves you. I love you so incredibly much. Let's do Lila Tove and good night to you. Lila Tove, may your dreams come true. We sing Lila Tove, may Israel protect you throughout the night until we reach the morning light. I love you, Angel. I love you so incredibly much. Like Papa always used to say, Mama's his sun, Papa's my moon, and you are quite literally, you're a rainbow baby, and we both love you, no matter what. It's unconditional love, Karina. You can never break it. Alright? Think every single day about all the things I'm doing and all the things I want to be doing with you. Every single second of the day. I'm like, I can't believe this is what I'm doing instead of spending time with you. When I had you, I did nothing but spend time with you every single day. You choose the activities that we wanted to go to, and we went. The only thing I really forced you to go to was story time sometimes, because you didn't want to go sometimes. But most of the time you wanted to go to story time. Just every once in a while, like, no, I don't want to go to story time. But I wanted other people to be reading you books besides just me. It's good to have other people doing the characters, and, you know, just having you have playtime with your friends after the class was over is just good. It's just good interaction. And it's good to have different books than what I might choose, or like than what we might have. I mean, we had so many books. You had 4 bookshelves that had a lot of books on all of them. You know, you had a lot of books. Mama loves books. I love books. It took me a long time to learn how to read. That's why I taught you how to read really, really early, because I wanted you to be able to have a good foundation in reading. If you have a good foundation in reading, you could do anything. You can do anything. And I just wanted you to have a good foundation. Straight from the beginning, when you have a lot of love. So I gave you every type of love that there is. I gave you words of affection and admiration. I spent time with you. I held you. I gave you gifts. I did acts of service with you. Just every possible thing I could do. I did. I love you, baby. I miss you.